In this episode of How I Made It, I'm breaking down a real estate deal I did for a $10,638 profit using my quantum flipping method, which the whole concept of quantum flipping is based on the minimum amount of you needing to be involved in the process of doing real estate deals. In other words, minimum involvement with huge results. This deal, I did it entirely from my computer. I never met the seller or the buyer, and I never been to the property or the city where it's located at. So you can do these deals from anywhere in the world. And the best part of all is I didn't spend any money buying or fixing the property. So I got in and out of this deal fast with very little risk. I also don't have a real estate license, and neither do you, but if you do have one, that's fine too. And if you want to learn how you can do these types of deals for yourself or do them more consistently, go to learnquantumflipping.com, or I put a link below this video in the description. Just click it and learn my quantum flipping method from me directly. I'm here to help you do these deals for yourself, which is why I made this video. So if you haven't already, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and follow me on social media for more content on how to do deals easier and with bigger profits using the quantum flipping method. All right, let's get into today's deal and how I made $10,638 profit. This was an off-market lead that came from cold calling, and the seller was an absentee out-of-state owner, and this was previously their rental property. Now, my cold caller spoke to the seller and found out that one, the property was in pretty good condition and would need some light renovations. Two, their reason for selling was they just had a tenant move out, and the seller was tired of being a landlord as they were starting to get older and wanted to do something different with their assets. Three, the time frame to sell was ASAP. And four, their asking price was $130,000. When my acquisitions closer got on the phone with the seller, they built some great rapport and found out that the property was previously rented and was being handled by a property management company. However, the tenant moved out and left the home a mess. And since the seller had already moved out of state, they didn't want to spend any money repairing the property. So they were ready to sell ASAP. My acquisitions closer found out that the seller was initially asking for $130,000, but apparently the seller forgot that they owed money, more money than they expected, and they increased their asking price to $135,000. However, when my closer ran the numbers, they realized that we actually have to be lower and closer to $115,000, unless we made this into a creative financing deal. But since the seller still owed money on the property, they wouldn't be able to accept a lower cash offer price. Essentially, the seller just wanted to sell the property for what they owed on the mortgage. But if we contract the property for $135,000, we would be too high on our acquisitions price, and we would limit ourselves on our exit strategies to make a profit on the deal. Now, guys, I previously talked about it in another episode of How I Made It, a little known secret strategy I paid to learn how to flip deals when your normal buyers list says no. So I gave my closer the green light to contract this property, and we would utilize the secret strategy if needed. So we put the property under contract for $135,000, and we went right away to get the buyer. And just like we anticipated, after we reached out to our normal buyers list of investors, they all said the same thing. Our deal was priced too high for them, and they gave us offers that were lower than our contract price. So we switched to the secret strategy. And shortly thereafter, our email and phone line was blowing up with new interested buyers. So we followed the quantum flipping process, and we started entertaining offers. A couple of days later, after some counter offer negotiations, we accepted an offer of $152,000, which was a profit of $17,500. Side note, what's interesting about this deal is that so many other investors would have just passed up on this deal because of the seller's asking price, including myself. Until I paid to learn a little known secret strategy of another way to dispo or sell homes at higher prices than what most investors are able or willing to pay. And even though it cost me a couple $1,000s to learn it, I had already made close to $50,000 profit back in just a few deals that I used it on. What's crazy to think about is how much money I missed out on making over the past few years that we could have made and we should have made, but we didn't. All because we didn't know about this secret strategy. And this is why I say paying for good information is so valuable. And I'm not talking about the amount I paid to learn the strategy. I'm saying it's so valuable because of the amount of money I made from knowing the information and how to utilize it. All right, now let's get back to the deal. So I emailed the contract to the buyer. They signed it. And just like that, I quick flipped the contract to them for a $17,500 profit. And I did it all from my laptop while I was out of town hanging out in LA. Easy. Again, never met the seller. I never met the buyer. Never went to the property. I don't have or need a real estate license. And I specialize in teaching others just like you how to do these types of deals for themselves too. So if you'd rather work smarter instead of harder and start earning profits of $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 or more, just like I did here and on so many other deals, then just reach out to me or go to learnquantumflipping.com and I'll give you my exact blueprint I use to do these deals. Now, if you're paying attention, you might be wondering how I went from a $17,500 profit initially down to a $10,638 profit after closing. Well, I'll tell you how. The seller who thought they only owed $135,000 on their property had actually owed even more money. And we didn't find out about this until once we got into the title and lien search phase. So since the seller was just trying to sell for what was owed on the property and they didn't have any money to take care of the fees, we just helped out the seller and we paid the fees out of our profit. Now, it's rare that this happens, but hey, $10,638 profit is better than nothing. And that's exactly what we would have made if we walked away from the deal and if I didn't previously pay to learn the secret strategy. Side note, the craziest part about this deal is that during the final transaction coordination phase, the seller ghosted us and actually wasn't picking up the phone or returning emails. I know that we're not the only ones in this business, and just because we have a contract with the seller doesn't mean that their phone will stop ringing and that other companies won't make offers to try and steal our deal. But I teach inside my quantum flipping blueprint how to lower the risk and help prevent this from happening. So after about a week and a half of my transaction coordinator trying to get in contact with the seller so we can close the deal, I had to step in and help think outside the box with the solution. This property is all the way on the East Coast and I'm all the way on the West Coast. So I knew it wasn't going to be a quick drive across town and knock on the door type of thing. What we did was really clever. In fact, that's the first time I used this alternative communication tactic. So if you're interested or you run into similar deals with sellers ghosting you like this, then just reach out to me. But I will say that the same day I stepped in to help out, I was able to get the seller on the phone, talk with them, resolve the issue, and from there we were all good. Now, the rest of this deal was pretty smooth. The buyer actually needed to extend a couple of extra days to close due to their lender, but that was fine with us since we still had time on the seller contract. Plus, we get paid additional money each day that the buyer is delayed. But other than that, the buyer was great and we closed with no issues. The seller sold the property without having to pay any fees. I got my $10,638 profit. The buyer got a great property to hold as a rental, and the title company got paid as well. So everybody won here. Remember, if I can do it, then anybody can do it once they have the blueprint. Like I always say, it's not rocket science, guys. It's quantum flipping. So if you want to work smarter and not harder by learning the quantum flipping method to be able to do consistent real estate deals of up to 5 or 6 figures yourself, then just click the link in the description or go to learnquantumflipping.com and I'll give you the exact blueprint I use to do these deals. I'll see you soon on the next episode of How I Made It, where I'm breaking down a deal I did for a $10,000 profit. I'll see you soon.